All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to tackle a really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea. What if I told you that our entire reality, everything from human society all the way to the stars in the sky, isn't built on harmony, but on tension? We're going to see why contradiction isn't some flaw we need to fix, but actually the engine that creates, well, everything. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It captures that constant push and pull we all feel. That desire to be our own person, but also that deep need to be part of something bigger. It turns out that's not just some weird human quirk. It's a fundamental pattern that's woven into the very fabric of existence. So, to make this whole idea a little less abstract, let's start with a real-world story. We're talking about the kibbutz in Israel. This was a community designed from scratch, built on these incredible ideals of equality and collective responsibility. And a really key part of that design was how they raised their kids. They all lived and slept together in communal houses, raised by everyone. And right there, that's where the tension started to build. On one side, you have this beautiful communal ideal. But on the other, you have that primal, incredibly powerful bond between a parent and their child. And for a lot of parents, the emotional weight of being separated from their kids every night, it just became too much to bear. So what gives? Well, that tension forced a change. The structure had to adapt. The community got together and decided, okay, let's change the rule. The kids can sleep at home with their parents. But here's the amazing part. The kibbutz didn't fall apart. It bent, it didn't break. It showed that some contradictions can be let go of without destroying the whole system. Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting. Because while they let go of one contradiction, there was another one they absolutely had to hold on to. Think about it. The tension between what you as an individual might feel like doing today versus your duty to the community. That contradiction was essential. It was the glue holding the entire kibbutz together. And that story brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today. It shows us that some tensions are destructive, but others are generative. They're vital. So the real question isn't how do we get rid of all the contradictions, it's which ones do we absolutely need for the system to survive and even get stronger. This brings us to this big idea from the source material called the Universal Law of Increasing Complexity, or ULIC for short. And it's actually pretty simple when you break it down. It says that some contradictions aren't bugs, they're features. They are the literal source of a system's energy, its ability to adapt, and its power to grow into something new and more complex. So yeah, the kibbutz was a great starting point, but this isn't just about people, not by a long shot. We're about to zoom way out and see that this exact same pattern, this idea of a required tension, is playing out at every single level of reality. From the biggest things we can imagine to the smallest things we can't even see. And we're going to start at the very bottom, at the most fundamental level we know of, physics. Right at the heart of modern physics, there is this massive, unresolved contradiction. On one side, you've got quantum mechanics, the weird, jumpy, probability-based rules for the tiny subatomic world. And on the other, you have general relativity, the smooth, predictable, deterministic rules for big things like planets and galaxies. And here's the thing, they both work perfectly in their own domains, but they completely contradict each other. And yet, here we are. The universe exists, right? It's somehow holding this epic contradiction in a stable structure. In fact, it's because of this tension that everything we know can exist. It's what allows stars to form, planets to stay in their orbits, and even for time to move forward. It's absolutely mind-bending. Okay, so let's scale up one level, from the rules of the universe to the stuff it's made of. Let's talk chemistry. We're going to see the exact same logic. Just picture a single atom. It is a tiny little battlefield of opposing forces. You've got the positive protons in the center pulling like crazy on the negative electrons. But at the same time, you have these other forces pushing everything apart, stopping the atom from just smushing itself into nothingness. It's this perfect, constant, tiny tug-of-war. So the structure of the atom doesn't solve the tension, it contains it. And by holding that tension in a perfect balance, it creates stability. This is the basis for every single chemical bond, which means it's the basis for the entire material world. I mean, the chair you're sitting on, the water you drink, it's all a product of this beautifully sustained conflict. All right, from non-living matter to the miracle of life itself. And guess what? The pattern scales up again. It's the very thing that makes biology possible. You see, Life is built on a fundamental paradox. To survive, a cell has to do two completely opposite things at the same time. It has to preserve its identity, its genetic code, that's continuity. But it also has to be able to change and adapt to a changing world. If it's too stable, it dies. If it changes too much, it falls apart. So how does life manage this incredible balancing act? Through structure, of course. The cell membrane creates a structure to hold the tension between inside and outside. The machinery around DNA creates a structure that allows for both perfect copying and the occasional mistake or mutation. Life doesn't run from this tension, it masters it. And that contained contradiction is the engine of all evolution. And here we are, full circle. We've seen this pattern in physics, in chemistry, in biology. Now let's bring it all the way back home to where we started, the messy, complicated world of human society. Hey, look familiar? This is the exact same tension from the kibbutz, from that quote at the very beginning. We all have this deep, powerful drive to be free, to be autonomous. But at the same time, we absolutely need each other to survive and to thrive. You can't get rid of either side of that equation. So what do successful societies do? They don't try to eliminate this contradiction. They build really smart, really strong structures to manage it. Things like family structures, economic systems, laws, governments. At their core, all of these are just sophisticated containers designed to hold the tension between the individual and the group in a productive way. The source material actually has this amazing word for this phenomenon, Ginordo. Ginordo is that new power, that jump in complexity and capability that emerges when you successfully contain a contradiction within a structure. It's the same thing happening everywhere, we just call it different names. In society, we call it prosperity. In biology, we call it vitality. In chemistry, we call it coherence. But it's all Ginordo. So if we boil this whole thing down, it comes down to this simple three-step process. First, you have a necessary contradiction, and that creates tension. Second, you build a structure, not to crush the tension, but to hold it, to channel it. And third, out of that contained tension, something brand new and more complex emerges. That's the magic formula. And this final quote just says it all. It really flips your perspective, doesn't it? The world isn't built on everyone agreeing. It's built on contradiction that's been contained and harnessed. The tension is what creates. So maybe the next time you run into a conflict, the question isn't, how do we make this go away? But what kind of structure can we build to harness its energy? It's a powerful thought. Thanks for joining me.